basically, when I was thinking about basically when we were discussing the options as to what we could talk about, the best part of what we do is digitizing design and construction. Now, Trimble is a global company that specializes in GIS. It also specializes in acquiring companies, so to speak. Part of their acquisitions were a lot of buildings companies or building software and hardware companies. Part of that actually starts to build a big ecosystem in regards to what Trimble can offer in the ecosystem. What I'll do is I'll overview what we are as BuildingPoint and our group itself, and what makes us so diverse in regards to Australia and New Zealand. The digital strategy, so it may come as a surprise, but as a reseller of a reseller of Trimble itself, we still have to put together a strategy so we can tie everything together and present this to clients and present this to people all around the world. We've worked on projects in Hong Kong, Auckland Airport we're working with as well at the moment, and also all over Australia. So the Herga Group. So Herga Group is a third generation company or family run business by the Bright family. Now, you'll see there on the right hand side that some familiar names: Altera, which is based over in New Zealand, UPG, Scitech, and BuildingPoint. We've got offices in all the main sort of areas of Australia and New Zealand. The red options are the basically our offices, and the yellow are hot desks. So if you have any questions or anything, Christchurch, Auckland, that's where we are, and we're also traveling to and from. Now, BuildingPoint, as I discussed just before, BuildingPoint look after all the Trimble buildings technology when it comes to 3D laser scanning, set out, any 3D modeling as well, so architectural 3D modeling, structural 3D modeling, fabrication processes, and we just look after essentially, if it has to be built and it's a non-civil object, so it's not bridges aren't out of the scope, but if it's a big high-rise or residential building, we can definitely tackle that with any of the building's software and hardware. So our digital strategy, when you're thinking, and sort of BIM execution plans is a big thing as well. From the design is basically where things start. So if you're thinking from the start, where does this data have to go? That's where we're thinking. Obviously, we're creating, sharing, collaborating through the 3D model and through the 3D environment. It's gone to the day where you're sending PDFs or sending 2D drawings out to clients and out to site to start doing set out. Everything is really based off a 3D constructible model. Now, the one model can be used right from the start, right from a conceptual phase in the likes of a SketchUp or a Revit, for instance, or even a Rhino Grasshopper scenario, all the way through to fabrication, and also construction and erection of steelwork and concrete and pouring, rebar ordering. The whole lot can be automated the whole way through. Construction, this is where obviously there's that in between. Now we've got the digital side of things, and we've got the intent of what the engineer wants to do or the architect wants to do. Then we're moving this over to the site where they've got the capability to start utilizing that data out on site and out of the office. You'll probably hear a lot of BIM, so to speak, and BIM being a big buzzword around at the moment. Digital engineering is another one. Essentially, all these is enabling the office to put information into a file, and that file being shared out to site, and being able to be modified and sort of added to as it goes on. By the end of it, you've got a fully working live digital twin, I suppose is the best way of putting it, of the actual site. Operation, this is basically the last stage of the digital strategy for us. When it comes to setting out or being able to monitor different elements. So let's say, for instance, you've got an earthquake down south. We wanted to monitor where buildings are and where buildings are situated. We can then monitor that opposed to where it was a year ago. and see how far things have settled, how far things have moved. And we can also monitor things for if it exceeds a certain amount of time or exceeds a certain amount of distance away from a certain point. We can easily monitor that and get warnings and alarm bells. It's basically the end of our digital strategy. So for today, I'll just literally quickly run through these. It's not going to take much time. I know obviously you guys came out of a heavy meeting, so that's completely fine. Digitizing construction on the software side for Trimble, obviously it starts off with SketchUp, then moves into Tekla, Tekla A&D, Trimble Connect, and PowerFab. PowerFab's being localized for Australia and New Zealand at the moment. It's essentially a fabrication management system, and we can might touch on that a little bit later. And then we've got our field solution. So I suppose for today, we're focusing on those first two parts of the constructible solution. We're working on the design and then the construction side and how that interacts between each other. Now, this is a slide that you may have seen before or you may see in the future. Essentially, the reason that's different is the fact that we can substitute any of these. So we've got SketchUp and Tekla here. I'm not sure if you can see my mouse. SketchUp and Tekla in the authoring software, transition of data, fabrication process, field solutions, and so forth. And we can loop that all the way back around. In regards to creating a digital twin, that's first and foremost the biggest factor is backwards compatibility. There's no point getting to somewhere and then not being able to continue or finish that off. Now, the biggest advantage of this, and this will come up at the end as well, is the fact that SketchUp and Tekla, you can just rip those out, throw in a Bentley product or throw in anything else and it'll still work. Having that end-to-end solution and then back to the start again is first and foremost the most important thing when you're thinking about digitizing the construction process. SketchUp, you guys are probably familiar with that. It's a 3D conceptual modeling package that can model anything that you put your mind to. Obviously, information that's put in here can be used for architecture. There's elements like Plus Spec, which is basically an add-in for basically SketchUp itself, and that will automate all the walls and so forth for any ordering. It's very powerful in regards to how open it is. Moving that into Tekla Structures, that's a little bit of a crappy image, but essentially it's a 3D modeling package that takes it from SketchUp or Revit or so forth and adds that extra element of detail. So it really takes let's say a Revit model from a LOD 250 or LOD 300 into something that's actually constructible. So we can do scheduling logistics. Obviously, you can see that there on the top. There is a crane. It's not just there for look. We can actually do crane utilization ratios based on where tower cranes are situated and how many elements can be picked up from certain pickup locations. Poor management and planning, formwork, reinforcing, anchors, and layout as well. And obviously quantity takeoffs, which is second to none. Layout is a big thing when it comes to this constructible workflow. Layout enables the guys out on site to tap into this 3D model environment and actually start setting out in real world coordinates out on site. So a lot of surveyors will use this with obviously the SX10 there. You can see that there. You can see it by basically shooting a laser across the field and seeing where things are being picked up. Localization, essentially, I mentioned before about add-ins for SketchUp. These are basically the add-ins for Tekla Structures. It's very similar to that of like an Autodesk for families, except these are basically more on the constructible side. So obviously you're doing a lot more connections, a lot more rebar, the whole lot. A&D, I won't touch too much on these, but essentially it's the grabbing that model file. So at the moment we've gone from SketchUp, conceptual, detailed the model. Now we're moving into the design phase or analysis phase is probably what this one is, and analyzing the model as is. Structural designer entails earthquake analysis, the whole load. It can do whatever your heart desires as well. Trimble Connect is now we're into that little middle phase of the constructible process. It's been designed, it's been detailed. Now we're basically just about to transition this out onto site. Now, throwing it into Trimble Connect can enable, it's basically like a BIM 360 for those that are in the Autodesk sort of scenario. Works very similarly, except the problem is with the Autodesk platform, it doesn't really go that next step, where this one will go into those site profiles and site tools. Basically a little diagram there for you. Revit model, Tekla model, all into the one platform where people can view it. As I mentioned, Trimble Connect doesn't stop there. It goes into surveying tools, field solutions with an RPT here, goes back into Tekla software, and also the workflow, so basically status sharing. Some features as well. Now, field solutions, not so sure how far into these you guys would look into, but essentially 3D laser scanners of any kind is literally a device that sits on a tripod in the middle of a room, shoots millions and billions of points, and essentially picks up colors from photos as well. On the left here, you can see a 3D model that's basically stitched together all these scans. You can see all these yellow lines. That's where the stations have been moved in between. Creating that will then create basically a mesh or points, which is then used to go from a scan to BIM scenario, or even used as a ASCON scenario as well. Laser scanning at the moment is being obviously used to scan it and then essentially model straight after that, where the way we're looking at things is if you're scanning it and then you're modeling it, you're probably doubling up your work and basically increasing that chance of error as well. There's no way you'll be able to get to the same amount of detail as a 3D laser scan, because it can pick up lights, it can pick up PowerPoints, it can pick up anything. So for us, we tend to try and push people not to do the 3D model because you can use the point cloud the same way. On the right, we've got a robotic set out tool. Again, shooting lasers, pointing out towards where things are meant to be, and all that. Part of this end sort of condition is the fact that you can actually start laser scanning, throw it into Connect, and also throw that into Tekla as well. You can also throw that into Revit. You can also take this into Navisworks as well. Field solutions as well for set out. Again, you can see a staff with this, with the tripod and the RPT there. He's basically setting out and checking where all these bolts or all these starter bolts are meant to be. Now, our X7 laser scanner, you can see here, we've got Spot the Dog, Boston Dynamics creation. Basically, every time this dog sits down, it'll start a laser scan. So sooner or later, we won't actually need tripods and we won't need people out on site, which at the moment over in New Zealand could be quite handy. You just send a robotic dog out and make sure that things get done. Laser scanning is a big factor of basically, there's a project in Auckland where laser scanning is being used for dilapidation reports. I think it's the one that was heavily fire damaged. So that's a process that's being used at the moment. That's basically a QA and QC process. Quick little video there. Not sure if this will work. Every so often these back out a little bit. I might just send these to Becky and these can be sent out as well. Literally just little videos about the RPT and the X7 laser scanner. I think this is, yeah, it's just a little bit of an informational video. Again, if you're looking at the X7 laser scanner or any sort of laser scanner, feel free. We can definitely get one of our technical guys out and basically to show you guys what it can do and educate people on essentially anything on the digital side. So anything on the 3D laser scanning, whether there's virtual reality or mixed reality, we can definitely educate that. We don't really have much on the virtual reality, and I'll go through the mixed reality in a second. Essentially, you can definitely take you guys around for anyone actually, we can take around the laser scanning and the field solution scenario and how these work. I might skip that. And layout tools, basically the same, but it's not working. That's right. All right, so now we move into, basically we've got the model, we've constructed the model, or we're just about to construct the model. These can go either side. Augmented reality, so this is sight vision. Sight vision is basically a catalyst antenna or GPS on top of a phone, and enables us to produce the 3D model straight onto where things are situated. We can start measuring points. Once we've got the geolocation of the model and the geolocation of us, we can start measuring as well. And we can also start to drape designs, as you can see here on the left, drape design files like DWGs out straight onto the field. Now that was augmented reality. Now we've got the mixed reality in the office. We can basically wear hard hats, or we can wear basically an XR10 or a HoloLens 2, and we can view any SketchUp models or any model itself in our office, and we can also do it in more of a boardroom sense. Sight vision is more on outside and on-site scenario, 1:1 scale, where the XR10 is literally a file format that can be scaled. It's actually a device that can be collaborated as well, so people can be in separate offices and you can see the same thing. Again, just head-eye tracking. It's basically the HoloLens 2. So if you guys are familiar with any of that, essentially it's a mixed reality headset. Mobile One headset as well is included. So what that is actually a bone conducting headset on the back of your neck, and it basically transitions sound waves, or basically vibrations, into what sounds are, and you can wear earmuffs over the top for safety. So it's very quick. Feel free, once travel opens up again, I'd love to come down and sort of show you guys hands-on what is capable and how we can use all this. But essentially, authoring software, transition of data, fabrication process, and field solutions is literally the digitizing the construction workflow. Swapping out in either of these is quite easy, and that's something that we're looking forward to in the future, that is going to be helping everyone and helping construction sites provide a lot more clarity when it comes to construction, and a lot more sustainability when it comes to how we can operate as well. Thank you.
Cool. Thank you, Jason. If everyone could give a virtual clap in your reactions. It's always it's very odd kind of dynamic at the end of a presentation. But thank you very much for that. Any questions, anybody?
Cool.
Yeah, I have. Yep, got quite a few questions actually.
Thanks, Regan. That's great.
No, Jason, really interesting stuff. How much is it? How much is the X7? How much for that little GPS on your hand phone?
It's not about price. It's about usability.
That sounds like our university discussion about, it's not about price, but we're trying to reorganize this.
It's not about how much things cost. It's about how often things are meant to be replaced.
But if say one was thinking about having one, how much would it cost?
So you're looking for an X7 laser scanner. Laser scanners can vary anywhere between $30,000 for there's such things as Leica BLKs, which is basically the size of probably half the size of a water bottle. It's about half the weight. Probably the same size as a pint or a schooner, if that's a little bit easier to determine the size of that. That one, looking at about 30K, but then you can go all the way up to like a Regal, which is a mining spec one, for 300K. So it really depends on the application. Our ones look at 70K for the X7, automatic registration, the whole lot. it's quite comparable to a lot of other software, a lot of other hardwares. It also comes with the Trimble software.
What about that cute one with the GPS on the hand phone?
Yeah, yep. So you're looking at that one there. So that's bring your own phone. The GPS itself is all included. It's all included on a subscription base, so the Sight Vision itself. Now you'd be looking at, don't quote me on this, New Zealand dollars a little bit. Need to throw that out there, but I think it's about 8.5 for the actual Sight Vision subscription and the handset itself. It's also got an EDM laser on it as well. So basically you can start measuring points, whether it be in the real world, so you're measuring to a wall, or you're measuring to a model element as well. So you can pick out points and stake out points in there. It's a lot cheaper than trying to get a surveyor out to a job site and locating pins every couple of weeks, because the site's ever so changing. So you can definitely establish that connection as well.
Yep. Any other questions? I feel like there's a heap of other people in the school that would have really be keen to listen to this. So I think your recording is going to be well listened to.
Yeah, as I said, when travel opens up again, I was actually meant to come down and or come over actually and show a lot of this off and explain what it all does and how it all works.
Sure, right.
With what you guys can do.
And
again, BuildingPoint.
I had a question there, Jason. For your system, is it interchangeable with other software packages? So say I just want to use your laser scanner, can I take that data and then maybe go over to Leica's software or Autodesk's? Because we previously used Leica's and they have quite a tight ecosystem where you're kind of locked in. So I was just wondering what Tekla's are you kind of locked in? No,
you're not locked in. So what you can do is inside that tablet. So basically you can load up a 3D model onto the Trimble tablet, essentially. You can load up a Revit model onto there. You can take that out to site, start geo-referencing your laser scan straight off that. You can take that laser scan data and actually take it back into Navisworks or Revit or any Bentley products. Yeah, completely open.
And you were talking about the project up in Auckland.
Yep.
Do you know of any other projects in New Zealand that are starting to use your stuff?
Not off the top of my head. There is, they are about. Not off the top of my head though.
Okay, cool.
Let me, I'll see what I can dig up actually.
Cool.
Too easy. Excellent. Well, thank you guys. Thanks for the time. Appreciate having me along, and hopefully, once travel comes up, I can all meet you all in person eventually.
Yeah.
It's a weird little time that we're situated in, isn't it?
Oh, sure is. Well, thank you very much, Jason, for your time and for putting that together